Hey everyone, today's visual playlist is all about books. This video is practically an FAQ video because I get so many email questions about books. Let's get started. Disclaimer, no one is paying me to say any of these things or to promote any of these books or websites. These are all my opinions, and all the money I get is from the ads that flicker before the video and not from any of the writers, publishers, editors, nobody. Okay? These are just my opinions. Number one, I say that the most common question I get about books is books on how to start a fashion business. Actually, a frequent email I get is, hey Zoe, how do I start my fashion business? And I laugh because, come on you guys, do you think I can really answer that in an email? Like, opening your own business, whether it's in fashion or a grocery store or an oil company, whatever, it's not as easy as sending someone an email. You guys, I spent half an hour talking about how to render lace. Do you think that I can answer how to start a fashion business in an email? I do have some resources for you guys. Number one, this book, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Sewn Product Manufacturing by Kathleen Fasanella. I have read this book cover to cover a couple of times in the course of the 10 years that I've had it. I know this person, Kathleen Fasanella, and she is so smart. Back in my blogging days, back in my old verbal croaky days, I used to write blog posts for her website, fashion-incubator.com. And the website is still there, the forum, the blog, and the archives is just so full of so much information. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. And it covers, design entrepreneurship and product development mainly, and sewing and pattern making and, apparel construction, soft goods. There's a category called soft goods, and that's basically anything made out of fabric. So apparel falls into soft goods, plushy toys falls into soft goods, like that. The website is amazing. This book is so full of so much information that if you are serious about starting your own design business, you need to read the website. You need to get this book. The second book that I would recommend that you get would be a book on business law in your geographical location. So wherever you are, whatever city, state, country, province, okay, go find a book on the way businesses are done, started, what paperwork you need to file, what kind of taxes you need to pay, all that stuff. There are tons of books like that out there. Go get one. Now, if you are trying to find the same information online, I want you to be very careful about where you're getting your information and make sure that it is a government issued website. There's a lot of scams out there. So be careful where you get your information. Make sure you're really getting the official legal information to file the appropriate paperwork you need for your business. Number 3, this is the Vendor Compliance Handbook by David Secul. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, published by the Fashion Dex. Fashion-Dex.com is another resource that I have used over the years that I think is really helpful for a lot of different people. They have all kinds of resources for contractors and just the industry in general, and they sell a lot of books. This is one of them. And a vendor compliance. It sounds so dry, doesn't it? But this is the important stuff, okay? It shows you how to format your tech packs. These are size specification charts for different garments, how to measure things, how to do sample packaging, documentation, how to put together a purchase order or a PO, vendor compliance, credit, letters of credit, label placement sketches, pattern cards, how to, draw out flats for construction purposes. Like, this book has so much good information, you guys. The nitty-gritty of how to put your garments together. Has a whole chapter on UPC labels, how to fold garments for shipping, how to invoice, what they should look like. What are these? Oh yeah, data templates, okay? Cut ticket templates, you name it, it has it. Completely invaluable. I love it. You guys ask me a lot of questions about fabric, and that's completely understandable. And that's good, because you all should be learning more about fabric, and the fabric series is coming, I promise. If you watch my design process video on fabric, that's design process video number 4. Yeah. I already went over this book, Fabric for Fashion, the Swatch book, where it has swatches and information. Love this book. And the Fashion Designer's Textile Directory, so a guide to properties, characteristics, and garment design potential. And it's organized by fabric. Here's a whole page on poplin. This is, so I didn't mention this book before, but this is the companion book to this one, Fabric for Fashion. And this one has no swatches, but it has more information, okay? And also, super excellent book. Different fibers, fabrics made out of all the different fibers, the process, how to identify them when you look at them and you see them at the store. Another book that I like is Claire Shaeffer's Fabric Sewing Guide. This one is, I don't think that this was made for industry designers in mind. I think that this was originally more for home sewing. However, the information in it is so good that I find myself referring to it a lot. Okay? It is huge. Let's just take an example chapter. Chapter 14 is all about napped and pile fabrics. Okay? What are napped and pile fabrics? I'm not going to go over that. Read the book. Okay. Napped fabrics. It goes over fabric characteristics. Ah! Bleh. Okay. How to purchase the fabric. And tips and tricks on layout, cutting, marking, and stitching, and how to press. You don't just take your iron and just smear it all over your fabric. Okay. If that is what you're doing, you need to just stop immediately. Okay. That is not how you press fabric, any kind of fabric, okay, that you actually care about. Different fabrics require different pressing techniques. And so she has them written here. And then she has a section on pile fabrics. And then she goes into specific pile and nap fabrics like corduroy. This is a whole thing on different corduroys. How to sew, how to cut, how to use, what kind of linings it might need, if it needs linings at all, blah, 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 velveteen. Okay, so there's a lot of information that, it will cross over from home sewing territory to industry sewing territory. I mean, industry sewing involves, different seam allowances and different techniques to improve efficiency. But basics like, what does corduroy look like and how does it behave? And, what is the typical fiber content? Those things will be the same, right? And this book is fantastic. Another really common question I get is, Zoe, are you ever going to make pattern making or sewing videos? And my official answer is, when I run out of things to talk about in the design, illustration, costume history, color theory sphere that I currently inhabit. And considering the current queue is 16 months long, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Honestly, like, pattern making and sewing are not my favorite subjects to teach. I completely understand their importance. I do. But, maybe I'll change my mind. It's happened before. Crazier things have happened. When I first learned how to make patterns in college, we didn't use a book that was available for print like this. We used a book that was put together by the teachers at my school, and I don't know where that is. I lost it a long time ago, and it makes me sad, but this one is a good book. I used it while I was cutting my own patterns. This is Patternmaking for Fashion Design by Helen Joseph-Armstrong. I would say that in terms of how easy it is to follow the patterns, I would give it like a 4 out of 5 stars if I were doing that kind of ratings system. Another reason why I recommend it to students are the drawings. Because a lot of the time when I say to a student, have you considered a Peter Pan collar? They'll look at me and say, what the hell is a Peter Pan collar? This book, among the very clear images and step-by-step instructions on how to make certain patterns, it has these great drawings of, this is a yoke shirt, here's a yoke, here's another yoke. It talks about princess seams, and then it has all these drawings of variations, design variations you can create once you understand the princess line. Here's the basic armhole princess. And then they talk about bloussons, and then there are these illustrations of what a blousson top is. One-piece armhole cowls, and then all these nice drawings of different armhole cowls. And so the combination of the pretty good instructions and the plethora of really good illustrations that illustrate the vocabulary involved with these garments, that's why I recommend this book, especially for fashion beginners. There's a newer one. This is the 4th edition. I bought this ages ago, and I think there's a newer one. I don't know what changes they made to it, so I can't speak on that. But I think like if you go on places like Amazon, there's like a section where you can look inside and like kind of look at some of the pages inside. I can't imagine it's changed that much though. I love going to bookstores to find what I can find. And remember the last time I found that book called Extraordinary Chickens, and then I became obsessed, and it was chickens this and chickens that for a while. I do that. Like I find something and I kind of fixate. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Okay. A couple years ago, I found this book, The Secret Life of Syrian Lingerie, and it was my Extraordinary Chickens for a while. Okay, let me just read the inside little blurb because they talk about it better than I can. Virtually unknown in the West, Syrian lingerie is racy attire that is widely popular throughout the Middle East. In Syria, where it forms an accepted part of everyday culture, the lingerie is displayed openly in shops and souks and constitutes an important element of weddings and marriages. But despite its wide-ranging popularity, it has remained almost entirely unheard of in the Western world. I love it. I love just learning anything obsessively, learning about something that I have like no prior knowledge of. This book, it shows this crazy lingerie, how they're displayed, a few pictures on how they're made, some anecdotes, some stories of women and their experiences with this just insane lingerie. Have you seen anything like this, American people? This is so fun. This is unlike lingerie that really gets sold in the US that I've seen anyway, and I love it. I love it so hard. I wasn't even designing lingerie when I came upon this book. I just was so into this culture because I think that the Western world has views on the Middle East and how the women behave and dress, and this shit just kind of blows all that crap out of the water. When I'm trying to develop an embroidery of flowers or a beading of flowers or thinking about putting together a flower print but make it maybe not so literal, I don't go look at other embroideries or other beading or other prints. I look at flowers. Okay? I like looking at the source material and you know, adding other elements of inspiration and bringing my own take onto it, and going from that instead of working off of someone else's creation. Okay? And so I have books like this. This is a garden flower book. People see this book in my library and they're like, oh, I didn't know you garden. And I'm like, you're talking to someone who can barely keep a cactus alive. You guys know that saying, absent-minded professor? Okay. This is why I can't have kids. So I don't have pets. And I have one cactus. This is a great book. I mean, it's a great book for gardening. It has so much information on what to do year round to take care of your bulbs, and, you know, what grows in the winter and what grows in hot weather and all that stuff. But beyond that, it has really terrific photographs of hundreds of different flowers. So go right to the source, okay? If you're doing something that, you know, you're gonna make it look like feathers, go look at feathers. Don't go look at what other people did with feathers. Go look at feathers. Another thing that I'm really into is military uniforms and the iconography, the codes, the symbols. This is Imperial Japanese Army and Navy uniforms and equipment. And I just love their currency, the graphic quality of their newspapers, their uniforms, their equipment. I love an overly extravagant, ridiculous, over-the-top ball gown as much as the next girl. But I also absolutely love marrying form and function and understanding the utility of things and how that was the source for how things were designed, and, you know, building products that really serve multiple purposes for the wearer. Like, I love studying all of that, and military uniforms are a great source of that kind of development, because, you know, the military, they don't make things so that it looks pretty. It's like, okay, my guys need this kind of belt so that they can carry these kinds of things, so we're going to develop this kind of, you know, it's more like that. And I love that kind of thinking as well. I also love this code of imagery that non-military folks typically don't understand. And just visually fascinating. Whoa, look at all these medals. That's kind of crazy. Okay. So I have several books on military uniforms. This one is one of my favorites. I honestly don't remember where I got this. And on the opposite end of the spectrum in terms of my interests, this is Hollywood Costume by Diana Vreeland. And this book is like the freaking prettiest book that ever was. And it's all costumes from the beginnings of Hollywood, 1910 to the 70s pretty much. And it's like photo stills from the movies, close-ups of actresses and actors and costumes, and stories about the costume designers, Travis Banton, Adrian, Ori Kelly. Oh, what the hell? It's freaking amazing. I really do love costume design and how stories can be told through costumes, or helped along, and, you know, symbols worn in the costumes. There can be foreboding shown in different costumes. And I love how, like, okay, I'm gonna stop because I could talk for like hours on this stuff. Freaking love it. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I love to travel for museum exhibits. I know that seems a little bit crazy, but, you know, some people, they travel to go watch their favorite bands play, and I travel for an awesome museum exhibit. I was in LA this summer, and at LACMA, they had this Raining Men exhibit. And of course, I bought the museum catalog. And I think that a lot of people, especially women's wear designers, they think that menswear is boring. You know, jeans and t-shirts, suits, no variety, not even colors. Men aren't very brave in their choices. Yeah, I get all that, you know, and there is a part of me that agrees with you. The history of menswear hasn't always been so bland. Okay, it's all post-industrial revolution where all of a sudden every man was wearing a black suit. Okay. Before that, some men's clothes were more elaborate than women's clothes. And this LACMA exhibit was incredible. Like, it spanned history, it spanned genres of dress, it spanned, wow, countries, uniforms, modern stuff, old stuff, and how modern stuff was influenced by older stuff, and just super fantastic. So whenever I go to a museum exhibit and I am impressed with the exhibit, I always make sure I get the catalog for it. I went to New York to see the Manus Ex Machina exhibit at the Met. I love New York, and I'll use any excuse to go to New York. Hey, universities in New York, come invite me. I'll come teach and go to the Met every week. This exhibit was just incredible. When I see this kind of thing, where the craftsmanship, the brains and the skilled hands coming together to create such powerful images and objects, okay? This is why I love fashion. My favorite people in fashion has always been the ones who are in it to make beautiful objects, whether you're painting them or sewing them or cutting them or whatever. Just, and seeing an exhibit like this where it's not about the glamorization of fashion. Of course, it's plenty glamorous, but it is really celebrating how technology and old school techniques brought together by the minds of great designers and brilliant craftspeople. And that, to me, is where fashion is at, where you can really make the beautiful things happen. Funny story, because you guys know what a fashion geek I am, right? So I went to New York with my best friend, and he used to be a fashion stylist. He's in a different field now, but he used to be a fashion stylist. That's how we met. And he used to style photo shoots for me, and we used to work together. And so we went to New York together. He also wanted to see this exhibit. And I love geeking out. And so I'm looking at these clothes, and I'm huddled with my best friend, and I'm talking to him about, oh my God, look at this, and look at this, and look at this. And I'm reading the blurb, and I'm like, oh, and see how they did this, and then they did this. That's amazing. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if they also did this? And look at this. Are you paying attention to this thing? Isn't it incredible? And you know, you might not get this because, I mean, I control the volume in the videos, but I get loud. My in-class students know how to be quiet. I was actually taught how to be loud by opera singers because my very first internship was working at the costume design department of an opera house. Anyway, so random people started following us around the museum, like listening to me going on about different dresses. And then I would notice, and then I would feel super awkward, and then I would like kind of change direction and kind of lose my tail, so to speak. And then I would get overly excited about another dress again, and I would start talking excitedly, and then we would pick up more random people, and sometimes they would engage us in conversation, and then I would get this kind of awkward, like weird feeling again, because I'm not a docent or or anything, and I'm not an expert in every single thing, but I was just like, okay, and then I would duck into another room, and it would happen again. Oh my God, you guys, I have to learn how to be quiet. Anyway, excellent exhibit. Go to museums, you guys, even if they're not fashion-centric. And I think these books are available even after the exhibits close, just because the books are so incredible that even if you didn't get to go see an exhibit, you should be able to witness its majesty in some way. So let me take a minute to address book recommendations I don't have. I don't have any book recommendations on fashion design books. I never learned how to design from books, and I never practiced with books. I don't know any fashion design books. And so I cannot help you there. I do not have any recommendations for fashion illustration books, although I am reading one right now for a future review. If there is a book that you would love to get my opinion on, why don't you drop me a link in the comments? Christmas is coming. Maybe I'll get one of my siblings to buy me one. Okay. So there's that. Otherwise, comments, questions, subscribes, likes. I'm forgetting something. I am occasionally the worst YouTuber ever. They're like, are you annotating all your videos? I'm like, sometimes. Anyway, all right. You guys know the drill. Always be practicing. Go look at pretty things. Go get inspired. Make beautiful things. And I will see you next time.